What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Sydney, aka a Shawty that reads, and in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing a book that I'm currently reading, which is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I talk about Brene so much, I thought I'd go ahead and make a video, and this book really called me to do so also, so let's get into that. Today I'm drinking some peppermint tea with some ginkgo leaf. I like drinking the ginkgo leaf in like the middle of the day because it's like refreshing. It gives you a little kick that you need. It helps with depression and anxiety, and the peppermint's just like, who doesn't like peppermint tea, right? But at this point, y'all know what to do. Like, comment, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on future literary content, okay? However, like I said, in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing a book by Brene Brown. So I'm currently reading Dare to Lead, which means I'm on page 115. I think I just put it on like my Goodreads account, so I hope I'm on page 115. Yes, I'm on page 115. But what I really wanted to focus on in this video is the armoring that we put up in our defense against being vulnerable. So she came up with a list of the vulnerability armory. And there's a lot of different types of armored leadership. We have perfectionism. We have working from scarcity. We have numbing. But what I really wanted to focus on in this video is the perfectionism aspect. Before reading this book, I wouldn't have considered myself a perfectionist at all. And that's why I love this book, because it says it's a leadership book for brave work, tough conversations, and whole hearts, right? And this definitely will get you to the point of great leadership, but this is also just a book about self. Because she does say in this book, who you are is how you lead. And in order to find out who you are, right, there's a lot of inner work that you have to do. And this book is causing a lot of inner work in my life. And I keep pausing while I'm reading it and being like, oh my God, like I have to sit and digest this, because this book is taking me a while to read, but it's just like at every point I have to pause and like reevaluate, which I didn't really do when I was reading her other books. I mean, they're fantastic, but for some reason, this one is just like really hitting home for me. So I just want to read to you a little bit about her ideas of perfectionism, what that looks like, and how it can be very, very hindering. So she says, for obvious reasons, I've been writing about perfectionism for as long as I've been writing. Researcher, heal thyself. There are also some not so obvious reasons. As a shame researcher, I've learned that wherever perfectionism is driving us, shame is riding shotgun. So shame and perfection, they're like this. Like vulnerability, perfectionism is surrounded by mythology. Below is what I've learned over the years and shared in some of my other work. Let's start with what perfectionism is not. Sorry about the sound if y'all can hear that. It's a little loud. It's a little loud in the space sometimes. Perfectionism is not the same thing as striving for excellence. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is a defensive move. Perfectionism is not the self-protection we think it is. It is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact, it's the thing that's really preventing us from being seen. Perfectionism is not about self-improvement. Perfectionism is, at its core, about trying to earn approval. Most perfectionists grew up being praised for achievement and performance, grades, manners, rule following, people-pleasing, appearance, sports. Somewhere along the way, they adopted this dangerous and debilitating belief system: I am what I accomplish and how well I accomplish it. Please perform. So I'm just going to pause here. This is when I was really like, wow, I needed this information. Like I really, really needed this information because my whole life, like I didn't even realize how much I was seeking approval, how much I felt like I needed that approval. What I was definitely praised a lot for my manners, my rule following, and my appearance as a child. Like that's what I was critiqued on most, and that's what I was praised for most. And I think that really has turned me into an adult that feels like I need approval. in those areas from everyone. Like, it's like I have to look neat, or I have to, always be polite, or always be nice, and always have the best manners. And that turns into a shit ton of pressure that is very, very difficult to deal with. And like she said, a lot of that is fueled by shame, which I never would have seen it that way before. So she says, somewhere along the way, they adopted this. I read that already. Healthy striving is self-focused. Okay, so how can I improve? That's what you're asking when you have healthy striving. Perfectionism is other focused. What will people think? Perfectionism is a hustle. And I think a lot of us can sit here and say, if we're being vulnerable, that a lot of our motivation comes from those thoughts of like, what will other people think? Will I make this person uncomfortable if I tell them how I really feel? All that's like going through your head, So perfectionism is not the key to success. In fact, research shows that perfectionism hampers achievement. Perfectionism is correlated with depression, anxiety, addiction, and life paralysis or missed opportunities. You see why I'm drinking this ginkgo leaf now, y'all. Do you see? Last, perfectionism is not a way to avoid shame. Perfectionism is a function of shame. Here's how I define perfectionism. Perfectionism is a self-destructive and addictive belief system that fuels this primary thought. If I look perfect and do everything perfectly, I can avoid or minimize the painful feelings of blame, judgment, and shame. That's definitely how I felt. I'm gonna read that one more time. If I look perfect and do everything perfectly, I can avoid or minimize the painful feelings of blame, judgment, and shame. And you're not gonna do that. You can't minimize those feelings. You kind of just have to embrace it. Brene would say embrace the suck. As much as you don't want to do that, just embrace it. It's a part of the vulnerability process and taking down this armor that we like to put on. So perfectionism is addictive because when we invariably do experience shame, judgment, and blame, we often believe it's because we weren't perfect enough. Rather than questioning the faulty logic of perfectionism, we become even more entrenched in our quest to look and do everything just right. Perfectionism actually sets us up to feel shame, judgment, and blame, which then leads to even more shame and self-blame. It's my fault. I'm feeling this way because I'm not good enough. And that's where it gets really dangerous too, because of course you want to be able to take accountability, but you don't ever want to be in a situation where, you really did your best and you're sitting here thinking, well, it's my fault because I wasn't perfect. Like if I had just done this like this and this wouldn't have happened. And then that creates the anxiety, the depression, those stuck feelings. And you just have to tell yourself that none of that is true. None of it is true. So to go with what Brene says, so she for every armory, she gives you a way to break down that armor. So she says, modeling and encouraging healthy striving, empathy, and self-compassion is the way to get past perfectionism. So conversations about perfectionism with trusting and brave teams can be healing and powerful. The goal is to get very clear about where, as a team, we're the most likely to get swallowed by perfectionism, how it shows up, and how we distinguish perfectionism from healthy striving for excellence. Are there ways that we can check in with one another that work for everyone? Are there flags, warning signs, or indicator lights that we can all take responsibility for spotting? I've seen teams that are willing to have these conversations, make profound changes, grow closer, increase their performance, and build trust in the process. So, of course, she's talking about teams here and perfectionism when you're working with teams or in the workplace, but obviously this can be applied to your personal life. When she brings up talking to your team members, trusted people that you trust on your team, and building that trust with your team members, if we're going to take it out of this context, I would definitely say build your group of people that you trust. Find a good therapist. I use Open Path Psychotherapy, very, very, very affordable. If your like health insurance doesn't cover it. So yeah, find your people. And that's something that she also discusses in Dare to Lead. When you are trying to figure out whose opinions matter to you most, take an inch by inch square piece of paper and think about those names and make those names fit on your little inch by inch piece of paper. So the point, it's supposed to be small, it's supposed to be difficult. And reading that section of the book is when I was really like, hold on, girl, hold on. Like, before we're even able to write down whose opinions matter to you most, let's work on this perfectionism thing that we have going on, because that was still really sticking with me. And I know that we all have masks that we put on that, you know, they're hard to take off sometimes. We have masks for like friends, family members, when you go to work, like so many different areas of our lives that we put this mask on. And I think the truly dangerous part is when you don't even know who you are underneath that mask anymore. And reading this book made me realize that that is how I feel. And I'm like, so before I can write down whose opinions matter most to me, I think I need to make sure that my opinion matters to me and that I actually like myself and like what I'm doing and actually enjoy, you know, what I'm pursuing, and enjoy like finding purpose in my life, if that makes sense. Do you see, like, this got really, really deep for me, you guys. So with all that being said, this book really is taking me on a journey of like rigorous self-love and acceptance that I wasn't really practicing before. And I linked it in the description. I wrote a blog post called Dare to Know Yourself, because even though I know this book is called Dare to Lead, I really feel like it's daring you to not only know yourself, but know your triggers, know the areas in your life that you need to work on, know the areas in your life that you excel at, because that's also very important. So yeah, this book is just, it says Dare to Lead, but I'm like, y'all, I feel like this is leading me to really know myself and really like dig deeper into this whole perfectionism aspect, because I really didn't realize that I was trying to please other people most of my life, and I haven't really been trying to please myself. And then this has also made me ask myself, you know, I'm trying to please these people, but do their opinions matter to me? And I wouldn't have even asked that question before if I hadn't been reading this. And it's like, wow, so you out here trying to please everyone, but do you even care about these people's opinions? And and I promise you, when you sit down and think about it, it's like, no, because the people whose opinions matter to you, it can't be that long. You got your little inch by inch square piece of paper, right? And also, she mentions, when you're coming up with this list, think of people who love you because of your vulnerabilities, because you struggle with perfectionism, not despite your vulnerabilities, because those are going to be people, you know, who can hold space for you or be 100% honest with you. You don't want your yes men all the time. You want people who are going to be real with you and tell you, you know, where you lacked integrity in some places or where you really did great in that area. So I would highly recommend this book if you are like looking, obviously to, you know, hone and develop better leadership skills. But like I mentioned earlier, who you are is how you lead. So in reading this book, you are going to find out so much about yourself that it's inevitably going to help you so much, you know, in your personal life and in your professional life. So every book by Brene I love that I've read, I will link all of them in the description for you guys to purchase. The one that I was discussing in this video is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Let me know if you guys want a full review when I'm done reading this, just because I think when I'm done, I feel like I'm really going to come back with, you know, the real shit, the real shit. Because right now I'm only 115 pages in and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm a perfectionist. I have all this armor up. Like, how do we break it? And I think the most beautiful part of the journey is that you may, you know, as Brene would say, rumble with vulnerability, rumble with your perfectionism, with your issues of foreboding joy, with your numbing, and you may get through it one day and let go of that one day. But it'll come back. And that's the work. That's the work that you have to put in for like true transformation. Like you're not just going to let go of something one day and then it's done. There are going to be days where it pops back up, but now you get to let go of it faster and you get to nip it in the bud faster than before. Where before, because like just speaking from experience, there are certain things that, you know, maybe 6 months ago, I would have gotten stuck on if I had experienced that. And now, you know, I still maybe get stuck on it, but I'll be stuck on it for like 10 minutes instead of an hour. So I'm basically saying that to say, like, be gentle, be kind to yourself. Don't think that all this work that you're doing to improve yourself happens overnight, or that you make a decision to make these improvements and you see that improvement overnight. Like, this takes a lot of work. And like I always like to say in all of my self-help or spiritual videos, it takes a ton of accountability. A ton of accountability. So thank you guys so much for watching. Per usual, please make sure you're breathing easy today. Taking your sea moss, okay? Take your sea moss.